What's going on, guys? We got your boy Andrew Esquire here today. If I have to suffer through that, you guys do too. I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves out there. We're gonna have a good one today with the legal mindsets over here in Asia, which is why, of course, we were permitted to talk. We're permitted to talk anime. It's free reign for anime on the channel today. We're going to be going through three big ones and some honorable mentions with some veritable titans of the anime review industry. That is, we're going to go through Jobless Reincarnation, Dungeon Meshi, Delicious Dungeon, and Spice and Wolf. We'll be doing it all live here today with my good friend and mod. And, homeboy, he's been around. Brandon, the anime guy. How's it going, Brandon?
Oh, Andrew, I am doing very well. Thank you so very much for having me. And I definitely, I'm so glad to be back and talking some wonderful stuff. Plus, maybe a good recommendation for shows that only maybe will get just the one season. We had a few this year that should get more, but probably won't.
They will. There's a lot that will not get more than one season. Actually, there's some that have been confirmed. But speaking of confirmed, we've got a confirmed badass with you, and that is my new friend, Espiritu. Welcome to the channel. Absolute Giga Chad was giving some good comments on Jobless Reincarnation the other day on Twitter, and I'm like, let me bring him in here because we need to get some fresh blood on the anime stream. So thank you for joining us, Espiritu. I appreciate, even with your weird half-hour time zone in Australia that you can make it. So thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, both of these guys, their YouTube pages are in the description, so you can go there and find them. But you guys have definitely heard of them before. You've got Espiritu. Let me bring up his page here, which is Espiritu Analysis. And that is over here on YouTube. You can go follow him. He has very, very good videos. Great thumbnails, by the way. I always like your thumbnails. Very, very good. So go check that out and his channel. And then you've got, of course, my man Brandon, who does pretty regular streams. He's been a pretty regular guest, but you can check him out here at Brandon, the anime guy, over here on his channel. Give these guys some subs to both of them, and go drop some likes on their videos for joining me today.
Thank you.
Speaking of this, Douglas Diaz, 5 Legal Mindset memberships. Thank you so much, Doug. Appreciate you. Also, Repton says it's time for Legal Mindset lore, the animation. At some point, I'm going to have a lore video made, and it's going to be great. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're almost there with my lore. We're almost there with my lore video. We're almost there. It will definitely be anime style when I make a lore video. Silbury says, unironic question. Can you sometimes use this as your loading and countdown screen? Yes. I feel like I need to just pop that up when I'm waiting, because that's a 12-hour looped video. That video I showed you is 12 hours of that song. It
People
was
are
1 hour. It's become 12. So I may leave that when I'm 5 minutes, I'm I don't want to pop on yet. I've only got a 30-second timer, but I've got a 12-hour video. I'll do it before some of my VTuber stuff, because if it's anything else but anime or VTuber coverage, if I'm covering, for example, Supreme Court decisions, and people see that as my loading screen, they're going to definitely be like, what the fuck is this? Am I on the right channel? But if it's VTuber coverage or anime, people will stick around. That would be actually hilarious.
Well, with some lawyers, that that actually would probably help them out because of how bad they are. But yes, that would be a little ironic and funny to have that load and then dive into the Supreme Court decisions. That would be funny. That would be good.
It's a little much, though.
Yeah, 12 hours of that. Yeah, that's a little much. Even the 30 seconds to 40 seconds, that was a bit much. But
But speaking of which, speaking of a bit much, I want to start with both you guys, and let's start with the Espiritu, then we can go to Brandon. In terms of recent anime, before we get into these 3 animes, just more in general, would you say you've been more pleasantly surprised with good anime coming out, or more disappointed, just in general, of your feeling of stuff you've watched the last 6 months, 2024?
I think in the last 6 months, we've been getting more animes and more, especially series that would normally have only gotten one season, and then we're getting sequels after sequels after sequels. I remember like 6 years ago, it was like a miracle for some of these animes to even talk about the idea of a sequel. And now we're getting more new animes and more sequels, and they're pretty decent. I mean, you get the odd weird animation ones out there, but most of them I think have been pretty good. And I feel like we've been a bit spoiled as anime fans.
Yeah, I would even say spoiled because it's been really, really good, which is really weird, right? Because there's been so much trash out there for years that I'm like, wow, we're getting like a year, at least 6 months to a year of just good stuff, like stuff where I'm actually like, for the first time, and I am a very reluctant watcher. I really don't get into stuff quickly or easily, but I'm actually having some trouble keeping up because there's so much good stuff I need to watch. And I'm doing, research every day. I got my other businesses. I do real legal work. Surprise, surprise to some people, so it's like with all those things I'm doing, and I get outside and touch grass sometimes. So all of these things combined with their powers combined mean, I'm just having trouble keeping up, which is a good problem to have. Because before it was just like, oh yeah, I don't really want to watch that, or I watched an episode or two and I'm checked out, right? But now it's like, okay, we're going to talk about Spice and Wolf today. I'm about halfway done with it, right? But I want to finish up and get, catch up to where we're at right now. But it's definitely like, Felzu says in the chat, new golden age. I don't want to say golden yet, but it's looking pretty silver. Brandon, what are your thoughts on the recent anime?
Yeah, I would say that these past 2 seasons, the quality has been a bit better. We're seeing more variety come back with some things. You've always, for the last, 10 years or so, give or take, we've had a ton of isekai, the different varieties. I think that's been toning down a bit. We're still getting some slice of life, but we're also getting some mecha back in our life. Just as an example, we had a Bravern from the winter season, which was absolute mad cat nuts, but it was the biggest surprise I have seen in a very long time. And yeah, there have been more shows that are getting second seasons, third seasons, and just this past spring season, there were a ton of them that had their second, third, or fourth seasons come out. So I think we're getting into a good mix of shows that should get additional seasons are getting them. They're coming out fairly regularly. The new stuff is pretty good. And then, I'm not seeing as many shows in total, especially this summer season. It's down by about 20, but that's a good thing because when you start having 90 to 100 shows either returning or brand new in a season, you're bound to have some that are just abject crap. Shouldn't have been made to begin with, and who approved them to begin with, they probably had to have their heads examined, and they probably did get kiboshed when the manga and the light novel sales did not increase because of that show.
Well, that's the big thing, right? It's like, okay, did the manga and the light novel sales make it to the point where they're going to make a second season? Like, for example, oh my God, there's one anime, I think it's like the NPCs in this, or maybe it was a manga anime, but it was like the NPCs in this video game are real or whatever it is. And I ended up reading the light novel because I heard they're not making like they're not continuing it in terms of the anime. And it was actually like really, really quite good. But I was like, okay, they had to wrap it because they knew they weren't going to get an extension. They weren't going to get all the light novels. So I can understand, ones that wrap because they don't get an extension. But the thing is, it's always very frustrating. And it always feels like it's a point in which they're not intended to wrap. And we'll talk about that with Spice and Wolf because this is actually an interesting one where it did wrap and now it's coming back again. But now we have more of the light novel going on, more, the manga's complete, right? So there's more going on right there. But before we get into that, this is actually a great comment. And I'm going to read this because it's a fire comment from Crimson Splat, who also sent a super, who says, Frieren needs a second season.
Oh, yes. Frieren does, and she's getting it. It'll be out next year.
For sure? Is that confirmed?
Yes, that's out. That was confirmed. That's
sure?
one of the shows from the fall season. But the Apothecary Diaries, and there's a few other ones that were really good. They, right at the very end, they came out and said, yeah, we've got the second one already in place. With Frieren, they're up to, I think, volume 11 or 12 or thereabouts. The mangaka is on a break with it. I guess they had some health issues. But where they ended the 28 episode season, is only about halfway to where the manga is at. So they have plenty of material to work with, and with the pacing of that show, that should be no problem. So by the time they're in production of it, it's going to come out here. The mangaka gets feeling a little better, continues with it. Yeah, I don't foresee a problem with that. And it's the same with the Apothecary Diaries. Mashal was another one that had a second season. It's getting a third. Yeah, we're getting a lot more of those, that they are doing that right at the end of the show. We're not having to wait. In fact, there's one of them on my my honorable mention list that I didn't think would get a second season. It's called "'Tis Time for Torture Princess."
Wait, hold on. Sorry. The Mashal is getting a second season or not?
Mashal's getting a third. They had its second season. It's getting a third. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It got approved for a third.
It's this season is 2 cores.
Is it 2 cores? I don't remember it being that
so
way, because they didn't do that with the
season
first
2.
season.
I'm just double checking everything you're saying as you're saying it live. Second season for Delicious in Dungeon has been confirmed, but it's not a third. It's a second, because the first season is a double core.
Yeah.
Right.
As far as Frieren goes, that hasn't been confirmed. It's just expected. It's a matter of when, not if, because everyone's just like, okay, it's gonna happen, but we just gotta wait for the official announcement.
I was gonna say with Frieren, if it theoretically, let me just say this. Theoretically, let's pretend Frieren ended. I'm not unhappy.
No.
Now I want more Frieren. Obviously, I think it's a great series. It's amazing, but like where it ended is a point at which I'm not dissatisfied with the story. If it did stop there, but of course, yes, I'd like to see more of it, right? I don't know how you guys feel about that. If you felt like, okay, if they don't make any more Frieren, would you be all right with it? Like a Spirit 2, is that cool with you? If they didn't make any more?
I'd absolutely love it. I mean, the journey felt like it was just like kind of the beginning of something much more bigger and epic, especially with the whole demon kind of situation. So I expect there'll be a second season, but just when?
I could have sworn
because
that
the whole thing is
introduced
retracing the journey to the demon's castle.
There was a tweet on X where someone claimed it was confirmed, and then they doubled down on it, saying, "Oh, well, it's going to happen, but it hasn't been confirmed." And then they deleted it, and everyone's just like harpooning them over it.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
They would be suicidal if they didn't.
Oh yeah, it will happen. But I think with the quality that they want to put into it, they're going to wait a little bit before they announce it, because they generally announce something. They wait about a year after the announcement, and then they give a release date. And being that Frieren of a quality and double core, that's going to take a bit of time to cook.
And that's fine. I'm okay with that. Wait fucking 5 years to make it, as long as it's good, right? Like, don't put out trash, because if you put out something good, right, people will watch it for decades, right? If you put out some dog shit, people have forgot about it in 2 minutes.
Yeah. I think at most we'll be waiting 4 years, but I think around 3 years is a good sweet spot for it.
Yeah, that's fine. Three years is fine. I got no problem with waiting 3 years for Frieren at all, period. Double cord, right? And so, yeah, was there anything, Espiritu, is anything you're looking forward to in terms of renewals, things that you want to see come up and kind of come back?
From this season in particular, I'm happy that Moonlit Fantasy got a season 3 announcement. I was surprised the series known as I Was Reincarnated as a Seven Prince, so I take my time perfecting my magical abilities. God, that's such a sentence to say.
Oh, God, yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, that is...
Yeah, that got a season 2 announcement. I was surprised by it because the kid has such wide hips.
I'm surprised that one did.
I've actually watched that one. I found
out why the hips are wide. There's actually a legit reason why. Because when the writer made the story, the writer wanted it to be a female protagonist, but the person that oversaw the distribution and the proofreading, they said, no, it has to be male because it will sell better. So in the anime, apparently, they made the hips wider just out of pure, like, hey, it's kind of a bit of hybrid. It's just like, okay.
I like somebody in the chat. It's like, in Isekai, the longer the title, the better. So yeah, this is the I was reincarnated as the Seventh Prince, so I can take my time perfecting my magical abilities. Yeah, but you have to have a long title. It's required in Isekai. It's really required.
And a title that's quite literal to what the story is about, especially the one that got controversy over his wife was reincarnated as a preschool child, and it's like everyone's like losing their shit over it.
I did not watch that. Did you guys watch that? Or
it's supposed to be coming out, I think it was either this season or next season.
Oh, it's not
this
out
season
yet.
coming, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was out yet. Oh, okay. Well, I'm definitely going to watch it because I want people to flip out on Twitter. That's kind of that's kind of what I live for. I kind of live for people spurging out on Twitter,
Oh,
right?
they'll spur out on that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
it's
might be
like,
this season or next season.
I'm ready for it. I'm so ready for like the Hogwarts legacy of anime. Let's do it, guys. Let's do it. Because right now in the VTuber world, in the VTuber sphere, which I also cover VTubers, there's the whole big lolly debate that's going on right now, which is like a permanent thing, right? There's always like, what is lolly? What does lolly mean? Is lolly necessarily hentai, or is it just a style of character, right? Because when you say that, normies think one thing and anime enjoyers think another, right? And then even within anime enjoyers, there's a split of opinion there. Right, so it's a great comment. We can talk about, is Roxy lolly or just petite, Up for debate. Kid Conda says we're gonna be eating good with the amount of people that will get filtered next anime season. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with it. I like the gatekeeping. Keep them out. It's good. Keep them out. It's great. And also the people that are not real fans, I love them outing themselves. They make it obvious. They make it easy. So it's like, oh, okay, I can mute you or block you, right? Okay, cool. We're good now. Jones of Art says the story of the wife reincarnated as a preschooler is actually really wholesome. Don't judge about that. That is going to be the ultimate dunk if it's just completely wholesome and like a wholesome story, right? That will be 100% a huge dunk on the woke people that just jumped out to cancel it before they've even read the content of the story, right? That will be great. Love it. I love it. Anime Prom says, what's a good light novel yet had a bad anime adaptation that messed up with its reputation? Infinite Dendrogram. I've not seen this.
I've never heard of it.
I've seen it.
Is it good?
No.
Or was it bad?
The anime is really bad.
Okay. I am going to, Cincinnatus, your comment is on Spice and Wolf. I'm going to hold that because first we're going to start our conversation tonight on our, our boys and girls here in Delicious in Dungeon. So we're going to start with Delicious in Dungeon, which finished. Guys, this is one I was not prepared. I was not mentally prepared for how much I was going to enjoy this series. Like, I irrationally enjoy this series in a way that when I first watched it, I was like, oh, this sounds ridiculous. And actually, I watched it because I had a flight that did not have a TV in it, which is kind of common in a lot of the cheaper inter-Asian airlines. So I was flying, I think, maybe Peach Air between Osaka and Bangkok. And they don't have any TVs. So I downloaded, you can like download stuff on Netflix. And I was like, all right, what do you got? Delicious in Dungeon. This looks fucking ridiculous, right? And then I fucking love this. I'm like, this is possibly one of the best series ever. And it only kept getting for me better. So I just want to hear you guys' general thoughts on this and also just kind of thoughts on the series. But before we get that, Felzu says, thank you, Espiritu, for joining today. Nice fact-checking, bro. Longtime watcher of his analysis channel. Thank you for the new blood, Andrew. Yes, I'm happy to add some people in here. So Espiritu, in light of the praise there, why don't you start out with your thoughts on Delicious in Dungeon?
I haven't really watched much of it, if really any, but I've seen so much about it that I pretty much know everything about it. That's the thing. It's like you don't even need to watch it. You just see all the memes, the images, the clips, and it's just like I'm just sitting there. It's on the top of the list, and I'm like, this just sounds too good. It reminds me of Food Wars a little bit, like this whole idea of like food that's extravagant and exciting and colorful and gets people excited. Maybe not like stripping nude every episode and making it look like orgasms, but just the journey and the expression and the color and everything in it. And it looks so fun. And I was at a convention this weekend and there are so many cosplayers of the elf, the blonde haired girl.
Marcel.
There's like so many of them. Yeah. It was just like, it's clearly a really good popular series out there. And the fact that it got a season 2 clearly demonstrates that. So, I mean, food, everyone loves food. So it's like, what's not to love about it?
Yeah, I mean, you want to eat the food. Like, this reminds me of like what is the Howl's Moving Castle as well, that has a lot of like food in it, where like you're looking at it like food in anime, where like you just look at it and you're like, fuck, I'm hungry now. Right? You know, like, I want to eat this shit. Like I want to eat some goddamn griffin. Like cook me up some griffin, right? Or some dragon or whatever the fuck else they're eating, right? Like I want to eat this stuff. And it just comes off as such a good genre. I mean, Silbury says here, food porn has literally always been an anime genre, but it just fucking hits. And not only that, but the characters are super wholesome, but they're deep, right? They've got like a depth to them, right? And throughout the series, you see the depth to all of these characters, right? To Marcel, Laios, Senshi, Chilchuk, all of them have a depth of character. And I think one of the reasons why people like cosplaying Marcel too is like she's a relatively wholesome character and she's like covered up, you know? So you don't have to have like the skimpy outfit, right? You can have like a very wholesome cosplay that, you know, is Marcel. And you know, I will say the series does go out of its way to be, I think, to be wholesome, which is a good thing. I'm pro that. And they could have done some like weird, wacky stuff when they did the body changing. They did like a changeling arc where they, you know, change their bodies. They kind of body swap. They could have gone like really etchy with that, but instead they kind of went comedy, which I think was great. With like Chilchuk becoming the human. You know, Laos becoming the dwarf, Marcel becoming the halfling, and then Senshi becoming the elf, and then the half animal hybrid just becoming a dog, right? It's great. It's like you're just a dog now. So they went comedy with it, but also went serious because they kind of each appreciated how their different races had different like attributes, right? So they got like an appreciation for each other. So it like really worked out in like a wholesome way. And everybody's got, at this point where it got in the series, everybody's had their lore come out. Like Senshi's had his lore come out, which is really interesting. You know, Laos, Chilchuk, they've all kind of got their turn with their stories. And you've gotten really attached to this main squad. So I think they've really done a good job with that. But Brandon, what are your thoughts? I know you have seen the series.
Yeah, I've seen it all the way through. I'm so looking forward to the next season. I was a bit surprised that they were able to complete their initial objective halfway through, and then everything gets tossed into chaos. But the thing about it is the whole cooking and what do you do when you do dungeon crawling? That's not something that typically gets touched on in a dungeon crawler. Is how do you survive in the dungeon, especially when you're not, you know, OP. No one here is an OP character. Sure, they've got their strengths, like with Marcel and her magic abilities, which goes a little further than even they were comfortable with, but they're not perfect. They can be had, and it was a very fun journey watching them go through their various encounters, survive their various encounters, eating their various encounters. And the cooking methods used is actually quite helpful. If you want to learn how to cook or get a base idea for how to cook just without the monster food, this is actually quite good at doing that. And yes, if you're watching it on an empty stomach and you're seeing these delicious foods get prepped, it's like, damn it, now I'm hungry. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a very good comment because we've got so much fucking isekai. And look, I love isekai too. I like isekai, guys, and I'm the isekai irrational hater. I like good isekai though. And so I think we've gotten used to OP, like OP being a thing. And I actually do sometimes like that, right? But that said, it's good to see, like in reflection to OP, characters that are definitely not OP, that can be very vulnerable, that can even die. Right? I mean, the risk of death in this is actually pretty high.
It's
and
there.
Even with something like Marcel's magic, which you mentioned, and not to get too spoilery, although for all of these animes, guys, we are going to have to spoil certain things. So, you know, put your big boy pants on for this. But like, you know, her magic, it being quote unquote forbidden gives this angle of, you know, okay, it's powerful, but she now gets shunned by everybody, right? So there's a backlash to it. It's not just, oh, it's OP and everybody loves her and it's like, you're so fucking amazing. They're like literally about to get into fights with other people over the fact that she did this, right? And like she's ashamed and embarrassed. So like there's a backlash to anything that's OP or whatever else. And with, you know, like Senshi's plot, like and going back to how long he's been in that dungeon, which, I won't spoil all of that for you if you haven't seen it, but there's some negatives to him have been around for that long, right? And some of these negatives can be psychological, right, and other things. So these guys all have a balance to them, and I do like you mentioned this, Brandon. So they do an excellent job of not red herring, but like they actually hit their quest goal about 75% or 60% of the way through the series. So
halfway.
Yeah, so let's say 60%, right? It's like a little bit past halfway. They hit their quest goal, but they don't actually end what they need to do, right? Like there's more they need to do once they hit that initial goal, right? So that initial goal is not their final goal, and their goals change and evolve, which I really like, because it's not like we have to kill the Demon King and okay, we've killed the Demon King, right? It's more than that, right? They've got that plus. So I do enjoy that.
It is refreshing to have some shows that actually have like the objective completed and then they continue on from that. Because a lot of animes, they just have, this is the objective right from episode 1. They hit it and then there's like, that's it.
Right. Credits can roll at that point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like credits can roll. Sorry, I'm looking at what people on locals are posting, and there's some absolute degenerates over here. I have to like pull up some stuff though, because it's just absolutely hilarious. Okay, so what is this? Okay, I have to like zoom out. I think that people are just mocking me relentlessly, but it's too hilarious. Okay, so real quick, just to go through these locals comments. About me starting the show, you never do anything until the last moment anyway. But then from Dungeon Meshi, this stuff is pretty good. Little pictures of the food. Here's the dragon pizza, in case you guys missed that. There's the dragon pizza and the meat. I mean, look at this shit. I want a fucking pizza right now. Like,
I want that meat.
Yeah,
I want it all.
Make you hungry.
I do too. And I literally have food prepared for me and waiting on the table outside. And I want to change to eating pizza. It's delicious food. But there's that, and then of course, because we have degenerates in my locals, and I'll play the clip after this. But people are saying dragon hybrid underboob for the win. Right?
Yeah.
That was the comment on all of this, right? And this is a little spoilery for some stuff, but yeah.
That's when everything goes wrong.
Yes, but if you're looking at Dragon Underboob, you are indeed a
degenerates. You guys degenerates.
Especially for you guys over there. All right, so let's see. We got a couple other questions here. Oh. Anime Problem agrees with you. Espiritu says Infinite Dendrograms anime sucks. Ellen is great.
That's the downside about a lot of like animes like that are adapted from light novels, and they're just like one season, or as I like to call them, one-hit wonders. They're just so poorly adapted. They'll go like, 10 volumes, jam it into a one core.
Mm-hmm. So with you, because I think I've talked about this with Brandon, but with you, Espiritu, are you a guy who will go out and read the manga and light novel before, or is it sort of like if you really like the anime, you'd read the manga and light novel, or do you not
really like it? I will. I have read some stuff before animes have ever happened. One of those would be Cafe Maid Terrace, which actually now has a second season this season. I actually read that before the anime ever happened. It's very rare. But unless it's like something that really catches my interest, I'll read it before the anime. But generally, if I really like something, I'll read it after it finishes. Because, even though we're getting a lot more sequels, it's still quite rare for all animes to get sequels and continuations. But it gets really hard to keep up with all the light novels and animes.
There's a lot, right? If you really are going to read every single light novel, it's a commitment. I've got to, I now understand why the anime is the marketing for the manga and the light novel, because there's no fucking way I'm watching a light novel or reading a light novel or reading through an anime or a full manga unless I like the anime, right?
Mhm.
So if I'm not committed to the anime, there's no way I'm just jumping into a light novel. Like, you're fucking kidding me right now? I spent reading through a light novel, took me like all of a day and a half, right, to finish one that was even a shorter length light novel. And that's a lot of time for me. So Westy West says, AI recaps saved me so much time. This is a big thing now, is AI recaps. But then Mushoku Tensei hit. I'm at volume 10, speeding through to avoid spoilers. Much love. Reminds me of King Killer books. Yeah. Although I will say, guys, yes, AI recaps are great. You know, obviously, I would rely a lot, and I do rely a lot on people who give review channels and have review channels to tell me first this is good, and then I go out and read it, right? Or then I'll go out and like look at other stuff and see what I can have out there to kind of get through the material. Felzu says OP can be good. Black Summoner was awesome. I haven't seen Black Summoner. Have you guys?
No.
Name rings a bell.
Black Summoner? Is there another name for it? I don't know. All right. So that's what we got for that. Now let's jump over for after we're past Dungeon Meshi, which I do look forward to the next season tour, to our one of my favorites. One of my favorites. It's been my favorite for a long time, and I'm so happy it's back. Spice and Wolf, right? Now, Cincinnaticus, who said this earlier, Cincinnatus said the inconsistent dub releases for Spice and Wolf is killing me. At least my family, my favorite anime is finally getting a remake. I don't know about you guys. I've been watching it in Japanese with English subs.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, I do remember watching the dub for this in English dub, and it was actually watchable. The voice actors they got are watchable. But because I want to just watch stuff and not wait a ton of time, I just watch subs, you know, generally, and also because in general for anime, dubs are so inconsistent. I just end up watching the sub until it's proof positive that the dub is awesome, right? And it's got to be all throughout awesome, or I'm just not going to watch it because it's going to fucking ruin it for me. Although I will say this is the type of anime I typically like dubs when the characters are Western. And I do feel like the setting of Spice and Wolf is more European. So it's believable that they could be speaking English or a Germanic language, right? Because like it kind of feels like old Europe, right? When Europe still had paganism versus Christianity, right? I definitely feel that vibe here with the church, right? That's definitely a vibe here, but I'm so happy this show is back. It's one that I watched the entirety of the anime, and I was left, even at the ending, I was left unsatisfied because I knew there was more manga, and I knew that it would get further. But now what we have is we have a light novel that's actually the manga is finished. The light novel is now on to, and this is a spoiler, guys, for Spice and Wolf, but the light novel is on to the story of their children, right? Or their child, right? So they eventually, spoiler, you know, at the end of the manga, right? They have a kid, right? And the light novel's on the story of their kid. So it's almost like...
I feel like it's not a spoiler anymore because the first episode basically has her daughter. So it's like, you're safe.
Go ahead. Yeah. So
because I haven't read the source material, but I just saw that first episode, and that isn't in the original.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, they knew the end, so they slid it in there as like this is the end story, but then continues. So I think it's really well done on that.
Yeah. No, and so of the changes, and this does jump ahead a little bit, but like I was so happy that it started and from the framing of her talking to her kid, because that ties in with the light novels. It also promises that we will get a story arc, which brings us to her having the kid, right? Like that, the kid is that story arc is going to come all around, right? It's going to close the loop because there's a kid there, right? So you've got to get to, okay, how is there a kid? What is this kid, right? Like it's almost like How I Met Your Mother, right? You know that it's got to come back around How You Met Your fucking mother at some point, right? You've got to close the story loop, right? So I do like that. Like beginning with the end, right? Beginning with the end. I think it's very clever, very smart. I really enjoy that because it's already delivered what I'm looking for, which is an ending or some place that it's going to eventually arrive at. Real quick before you comment on it, Einhander says, I love they brought back the original voice actors. Fun fact, the Japanese voice actors for Hollow and Lawrence are Callan and Lelouch from Code Geass. I did not know
Nice.
that. So let's, Brandon, what are your thoughts so far on Spice and Wolf?
Well, so far, as I said, I've never seen the original. I've never read the manga or the light novels. I've been told that it is slow. There are some that think it's boring, but I'm good with this type of pace show, and it's definitely a little different, focusing on the economics of being a traveling merchant and the problems that you can run into being a traveling merchant. For me, it's easily an 8.5, and I have enjoyed it. I do like where it's gone, where it's going, and now that I know where one of the ultimate end goals is at, yeah, that's going to be. It's going to be interesting to see how far they choose to go with the anime and second seasons, etc. But I like it. I really do like it. It's been a lot of fun so far.
I'll occasionally mute myself because they're still working on stuff upstairs. I had that
Yeah.
problem yesterday where they're like cutting tile upstairs. So I'm trying to mute so that doesn't come through on the recording. But the DGens on locals over here are focusing on what the people really care about from Spice and Wolf, and that is the wolf tail, right?
Well, if you're going to chase tail, you might as well have it be nice and fluffy.
Exactly.
You might as well chase the best tail out there, and that's that hollow tail. Espiritu, like, what were your thoughts generally on the series so far? Things you liked, things you didn't like?
I'm a filthy capitalist. I love my capitalism. So
I am too. I love it.
I love how it educates people on how money works, how trading currency, valuations, all that kind of stuff. Like, oh, you could buy an item that's worth 10 over there, but it might actually be worth more over there because of the trade value and the distances and the logistics behind it. And, well, they don't have wolf pelts over there, but they do. And they have apples, but they don't. So you have a trade value. And, oh, but they might have apples and fish. And so different valuations. And I really like that about it. I feel like if you like money, capitalism, and you want to learn more about how it functions, it's a great anime to get into. So I like to call it Capitalism the Anime just because it triggers people, even if it really isn't purely
so
capitalism.
Good. That is so good. Capitalism the Anime. I'm going to use that. In fact, that's going to be like, if we clip this out, like it'll be like Spice and Wolf, aka Capitalism the Anime. That's
beautiful.
And it's a perfect description for it. It really is
the best one. This Arson, I normally don't call out regular chats, but this is great. The church is the fucking IRS.
Pretty much.
It's freaking true. It's so true. The church is always like, hey.
They're just sitting out the window. I see you've got money. You owe us.
Let's pay up. Hey, you know those ties, right? Spice and capitalism. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Honestly, that's how economics class should be taught. And not enough people learn financial literacy. Not enough people learn the basics of business, right? And if you learn that through an anime, that's fucking great, right? I hope that, to curse you with this knowledge of good, of just, hey, this is how trade works. And just, if you're thinking about business, you have to think about logistics. You have to think about distance. You have to think about supply and demand, right? You have to think about times of the year, right? All of these things. And those are all very, very, very important. So some minor stuff, and this is just like first episode stuff I saw. There's a lot of stuff I like about it. For example, like I said, closing the loop, and obviously the new animation is still very good. They haven't gone full 3D and weird, which I'm very happy about. But they did change one or two things, and I'm like, oh man, I wish they didn't. Like, for example, in the original, there was this girl, Claire. I don't know if you remember Claire, but she was this very thirsty girl. She wanted to, partner up with Lawrence. She was the one who got the last cut of wheat. So you become Hollow the Wolf when you get the last cut of wheat. So she got it, and instead of this ho-hum guy, Yaru or whoever it is who gets it, who's kind of a forgettable character, it's this girl who's really into Lawrence, right? And she gets the wheat and runs away and jumps in his cart and is doing all this stuff. So she's got more of a personality. She also tries to like sleep with Chloe, I think. Maybe it's Chloe, right? She was anime original, but she was good, and I liked it, right? And Claire, whatever, C name. She was unique to the anime, but she was good, and she was a good change. This one is more faithful to the manga, right? But I did like that about that non-canon character, right? So I will say that's something I took out. Also, there were a couple of shots where it's clear that Lawrence is very lonely before he meets Hollow, and that adds to a motivation. Like he's talking to his horse a little bit more, which is sort of the crazy person thing you do when you're really fucking lonely. You're like talking to your goddamn horse because you have nobody to talk to. They took a lot of that out, right? He gives like one comment, but it's like passing, right? But in the anime, in the original, in the first one, he's talking to his horse for like a couple minutes, like talking to the fucking horse, right? So like that's a pretty lonely person if you need to talk to your horse. I mean, I talk to myself sometimes, which, you know, is the sign of a crazy person. But, you know, it does bring into that, okay, these are two lonely people and they kind of fulfill that other need that each other has, like Hollow's isolation and Lawrence as this traveling merchant. And the life of a merchant is one that like doesn't put down roots. And that leads to a really hard life, right? I identified that with like an expat, like living in another country, right? Like it's hard to make friends when you're nomadic or you move around, or I'm in one country for 6 months and I'm in another for 3 months. You don't have the same level of friendships, right? And to me, that's a little bit of element missing. Is it a critical flaw? No, it's just a little bit of like I noticed this, compare and contrast. But these are the type of minor things that, you look at when you're like, okay, this was an anime change. Right. So is it better to change for the anime and to make it a little bit, quote unquote, better, or is it better to be faithful to the manga? Right. And I know people feel different ways about that. Some people feel like the manga should never be changed. Like the anime should be like straight up with the manga. There should be no changes for the anime at all. I don't know where you fall on that. Like Espiritu, do you have like a place you fall on that spectrum?
I'm kind of in the middle. As long as it stays core to the values of what the story is about, it doesn't bother me so much. Like if it changed like the whole fabric of like, oh, well, Hollow and Lawrence aren't interested in each other whatsoever and they always fight, like they change that core aspect, then I'd be like, okay, that's stupid. But if they change little things, I don't have so much of a problem, because at the end of the day, if you want what's core to the story, then you've got the source material. As long as it makes sense and it's done well and like the changes flow properly, I don't mind it so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Brandon, what about you in terms of like changes from anime to manga, or manga to anime, or light novel to anime changes?
That's a tough one, because there's a lot of stuff that got made while the manga or the light novels were being made, but because there were breaks or inconsistencies in the manga creation, the animators had to go do their own thing, and either is good or turns into a shit show or that, and then the show gets canceled and then it comes back and gets adapted properly. It's basically the Full Metal Alchemist question, or the the Hellsing question, or even in some cases the Trigun question. What is going to be the best way to see that? Personally, I have not dove into too much of the manga side of things, so I don't think that it's necessarily bad, as long as the original show is good and if it actually gets completed. But that's the problem. Most of these don't get completed.
You slipped in you slipped in the magic word there, Brandon. I caught you on that one. If it actually gets completed, right?
Yes, if it gets completed. And that's the problem with Alchemist. That's the problem with Hellsing. And to a partial extent, that's the problem with Trigun.
I appreciate you saying that, because literally Einhander was like, Hellsing PFP. Like, yep, that's acknowledging. Yeah. I mean, by the way, I love Hellsing too. Like,
oh, yeah.
But
the original Hellsing is fun.
If you like something, you need to call it out when it when it
works.
When it works and when it slips, you need to do both. Like accountability is a good thing, right? Speaking of which, Randy H says for 5, few have read the true source material for Spice and Wolf. Basic economics. It's true. It's sad but true. Randy H, welcome as a new member. Appreciate you joining at the RPG level. Appreciate you. Crimson Splat says Black Summoner. I like the light novel much more. The anime put me off. Okay. Ricardo Fung for 9 says, I don't mind waiting for good quality. Captain Tsubasa ended yesterday, and it took 4 years for season 2. A little later, production said they'll start to cook for season 3 the next 4 years. 40 to 50 episodes? Worth it. Have you guys seen Captain Tsubasa?
I wanted to,
No.
but since I haven't seen any of the original stuff, none of it, I tend to shy away from those, but it's Captain Tsubasa. You know, we're talking, you know, early 80s anime phenom that has had so many updates, renditions, redos of it. I don't think you can go wrong, even with the newer stuff, because I think they did start over the story.
Right, there's like a junior
mid-century,
youth league, right? In case you guys don't know, like Captain Tsubasa is, I'll just pull up like the images so you guys see this real quick.
Yeah.
But like Captain Tsubasa is generally related to soccer, right? So like, you're talking about like different, but over time it's transformed, right? There's much different arcs, for Captain Tsubasa. So you're going to get different stories with that, but awesome to check out. If you guys have interest in that, I mean, sports anime is its own world,
its own special, unique thing, yeah.
And then there's sports anime, and there's sports anime that's really BL, but it's masqueraded as sports anime, right? That's for another. I'm gonna put a pin in that one for another episode.
Katakawa Jet Girls.
Alpha Omega says, y'all see Blackstone just dropped 1.7 billion on Japanese biggest e-manga platform, colonization of industry by 1,000 cuts. On which platform would that be? Which platform would that be? And my thing with, here's my thing with all this. They're coming for the anime. They're coming for Japan. There's so much. It's difficult for them to capture that industry, and because there's so many, like, not just small creators, but there's so much that's done online and on other platforms, it's something they're not going to be able to whack-a-mole. And how about manhwa, right? The Korean manhwa. How about stuff that's coming out of China even? And I know it's crazy, but there's actually some good shit that comes out of China occasionally, right? And are they going to capture that too? No, they don't. And all the Blackstones and BlackRocks and Vanguards of the world don't have enough money to do that, or time, attention, control. Right? They just simply do not, right? It's too big of an industry. If anything, it's going to be the other way around. It'll capture them, right? Because the interest is there. Whereas if they look at Hollywood, they're just not getting returns, right? And I've said this on my other streams when I go on streams with people like Valiant and other folks talking about Disney and pop culture and stuff. Anime is kicking their ass. And they don't like to hear it. They get really salty about it. They say, oh, well, I hate, people will come out there. The anime haters will come out there and get weird. But, it's a fact, whether they like it or not. And then Sigrun says, probably my last super chat for him. Oh, awesome. Best sports anime is Kaijo. No arguments to otherwise will be accepted. Okay, well, Sigrun, since you dropped the mic on the way to Anime Expo, we got to agree with you. Kaijo's #1 sports anime, okay? Sorry, got to agree with you. Would Girls und Panzer count as sports anime?
Yes. What better way to become a better wife and mother and just all around woman than by partaking in the sport known as tankery? It doesn't get much more OP sports than that. That's just cute girls in tanks. What more could you want?
Yeah, and anime problem, I do agree. Jie is not one of the good things coming out of China. Yes, you are very, very true. Like, those are the people that are like the cultivators. It's sort of like the cultivation anime, where they're like, I'm going to cultivate. And they always, if you see the word cultivate, right, that's typically related to that. Those stories get kind of annoying. That's not what I'm talking about. There's some other ones that are pretty good. I'll do that. Actually, you know what? I'll do a separate episode, like we'll do a whole separate one of stuff I've seen that's like Chinese or Korean. Maybe I'll merge them, which will piss everybody off. And stuff I've seen good out of China and Korea, like and it can be manhwa and stuff that doesn't have an anime yet, right? But is in written form. That said, let's get to the Spice guys, not Spice and Wolf. let's get to our I guess, I don't want to say crux here, but what we've been working up to, which is jobless reincarnation, Mushoku Tensei, which, as Screenrad said, we've got this latest season, and right now coming out saying jobless reincarnation will make its protagonist even more hated with the most controversial storyline. So, boys, how much do you hate jobless reincarnation after this last season? Start with
it's
you,
just
Spiritu.
go for it. Do it.
Start with
Start
you.
me.
How much do you hate it? How much do you absolutely loathe it after this last season?
I'll just say this while I hold this, just for extra effect. How dare you, Rudy, cheat on Sylvia with Roxy, you filthy degenerate monster! You're only allowed to have one wife!
Yep.
Oh! Absolutely. Hold on. Sorry, hold on real quick.
Not a sin. I cannot absolve you. Mega based.
Super. Oh god, the memes out of this are just so good, guys. Let me just browse some of these for you guys, so you see them. There's just some that are absolutely classic. Let's see. This, of course, okay, a little bit spoilery for those that don't know, but I mean, it really, really works. This one really, 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 really works. And then, you've got a couple others, here that I showed these boys before we all started up. The myth of consensual sex. I consent.
It still makes me laugh. So.
Consent. I don't. Is there somebody you forgot to ask?
Jeez.
Oh man, so funny. And then there's one. Let me see. Oh yeah, and then of course, from this season, the fan art has been legion. I mean, I'm just saying, stuff happens. Stuff happens. When you've got multiple wives. Let's see here. King Lugia says, I finished the Mushoku Tensei light novel. It was fun. And Sober says, this was a completed web novel before it was a light novel. The studio knows what it signed up for. Y'all, not you guys, just ignorant. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people just ignorant. Brandon, what are your thoughts, though, on this season, on the controversy? Let's hear it.
Well, we kind of knew this is where it was going because of his discussion with his father before setting off in the dungeon to save his mother. And he basically tells the lad, boy, I have two swords. They serve two different purposes.
Yes.
You'll understand this one day.
Yes.
And he does. And, it's one thing if you construct a world where this type of arrangement is not common. It's common in this world, so why wouldn't he? It goes down to his loves. And I know that for me, there have been certain women in my life that I have loved at certain times. Not all at the same time, because my wife would absolutely murder me, and she would murder everybody else.
Married, so tread lightly, Brandon.
Yes,
tread lightly,
exactly.
my friend.
But I can see and understand where he's coming from. He loves Roxy. He has a certain relationship with her as his first. He has his relationship with Sylphie as his lifelong friend, and then he has the relationship with Roxy as his sensei, his teacher, his mentor, basically his magical side. He owes everything to her. He owes getting over his limp-dickedness to the elf chick, and then you have the other one, which is the one he actually lost his virginity in both worlds. And that's his second or third, fourth cousin, whatever that is. But as I said, in this world, in typical fantasy worlds, and
kissing
even
cousin, as you might say,
yeah. And even in world history, there's still lots of places where multi-wives is the norm, and throughout history, that's been the norm.
Let me put a pin on that. Even in the once again the East, where this anime is, anime is generally coming out of Asia, right? there are multiple cultures, including at some point, at historical periods in Japan, right? China, I'm in Thailand, where they literally had to force them to ban that, but they low key still do it, right? It's like there's a lot of places, a lot of countries where it's like, okay, yeah, we're not going to do this, but we understand the concept. Or you've got multiple wives or mistresses or something like that. That's just part of the culture, saying, okay, well, you got your wife and you have your mistress, and it's just how it is, historically. But when we go into a fantasy setting, particularly one where you had the guy's dad married to two women, you're like, yeah, I mean, it kind of was normalized there. So, for all your being sensitive to other cultures, y'all really not sensitive, right? And it's very interesting how a lot of the folks that I see criticizing it on Twitter, if I said it, oh, they're poly, or oh, they're whatever the term of the day is, they'd be like, oh, that's okay. They can be poly, but he can't be polygamous. Rudy can't. It's got to be open for everybody, right? They have these different concepts, right? So it is very, very, very interesting. Some of the people coming out of there. Yeah, Charlemagne had 3 wives. So this is stuff that it was historical. This is a medieval setting, right? This is not a modern setting, right? Modern culture is not medieval culture. It's not even culture from 100 or 200 years ago, where we had radically different ideas about this sort of stuff. So yeah, this is something that, and the other thing too is his modern self struggles with this concept, right? And you can see that his resistance to it is from his modern self, looking back and being like, oh, I shouldn't do this, right? But he's like, wait a second. Oh, wait, shit, this is normal. And it takes the elf to tell him, bro, unless you're one of these weird church people, which he's not, right? Then you ain't got a problem with this. You can, go ahead and get those 2 swords, which is a very apt metaphor. It's a very, very, very apt metaphor.
Well, he's going to go for the Zorro here eventually, from what it sounds like. So,
yep.
Season 3.
Season 3.
3-sword style.
And this is one where, guys, there's no way we don't get this whole series to completion, because it has been completed, right? This is one I see them seeing through to the end, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though the web novel is the original source, the light novel is the version that they're taking from, and the light novel does have stuff that the web novel doesn't have, like Volume 7, which is the whole erection dysfunctional arc where he goes off and meets Sarah. So that's added stuff. There is also some after story volumes that are still coming out. So even though the core story is finished, there's a couple of new volumes that are coming out that are like a after story kind of thing, which I think the anime might adapt, but that's still like 6 years, 8 years away.
I don't know. I've talked to Brandon about this, but how did you feel about the ED arc, Spiritu?
I actually really loved it.
Yeah, so did I.
It was one of my favorite arcs in the story, because it really highlighted on mental health, how you can become so depressed, so downtrodden that you become dysfunctional in all aspects. And I thought it's a good way of educating people on mental health, especially men's mental health. But I saw so many people mock Rudy over it, like, oh, this isn't real, oh, ha, 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 loser, he got his dick limp. And it's like, you don't know this is a real common problem, right? It's called erectile dysfunction because it's a real case, a real issue that men do go through. So it was interesting to see how many people mocked it, which just shows that men's mental health has some severe stigmatization still to this day.
People don't take it seriously at all. They think it's a joke. They write it off. They think men are dispensable, that it's not a big thing, right? And it shows you how even people that are outstanding, to me, looking at Rudy was always he's a prodigy. He's a genius. He's super powerful. His mana is fucking unlimited, right? His mana pool is crazy big. He's somebody who's always been top. And he's brought to this level of patheticness because of his mental health and because of what's going on in his head, right? And it took Sylphie to pull him out of that and to save him from that, right? Spiral. His mental health spiral, which was just sending him just absolutely into the dirt. And that kind of crops up again when you see Paul die. And it's once again Roxy that kind of pulls him out of that, right? Where he spirals down into this pit. And of course, part of that coming from his human soul presence, knowing his life and, how that was and being kind of triggered by that, brought back into that, right?
how he lived his past life and the regrets of his past life. Plus, and if you really think about it, how old was he when he got isekai'd? A little over mid-30s. So by the time he's in that age where men can experience those problems because of age or health issues, his mentality is that of when he first actually gets laid, of a mid-40-year-old guy. So yeah,
Right.
having that experience, finally getting over that hurdle that he couldn't get over in his original life, and then having her leave him like that. Yeah, he's gonna have issues, lots and
Yeah.
lots of issues.
And it's a common issue. And like I said, especially like just the man who dies without experience ED probably got run over by a truck crew and rejected for reincarnation for being a pathetic loser. But like, it's a really common issue. And like, once again, people don't understand how psychology, sexuality is tied together to your mental state and mental health. That's actually one of the biggest parts of it, right? If your mental state is not in the right place, like things aren't going to be working upstairs and downstairs, right? You got to get this fixed, right? And a lot of times it's up here, right? Not down there, it's up here. So it's a big thing. And honestly, like that arc, I thought I was going to hate it. I fucking loved it. This whole arc with Paul, thought I was going to hate it, loved it. Although I will say the one thing I was a little bit like, okay, you've said it too much, is the death flags, because they talk a lot about death flags. Like, oh, Rudy, don't name the baby because that's a death flag, right? And then Paul is like, Paul and Rudy, oh, don't tell me after, right? Tell me after you get there. We're like, he's never telling them, right? This is too many. He's said this too many times. Like they have like multiple topics that they needed to talk about. And they're like, later. And he never said anything about it, right? So to me, it was like, okay, this it's obvious. Now I knew he was going to die because I that was spoiled to me a while back, and I haven't read through the light novel or the web novel yet, but it was spoiled to me at some point a while back. Both his marriage, his future marriages, and the death was spoiled, but it was kind of obvious. Even if I take out me knowing, if I watch that anime, I'm like, dude, this guy's fucking dead. He's super dead, right?
And they timed it for Father's Day as well, which is pretty trollish of the studio.
Happy Father's Day, y'all.
Yeah.
Well, if you're gonna go, you might as well go saving the one you love.
Well, his death was fucking
was
honestly,
bad.
one thing I like about this series is they don't shy away from like getting pretty fucking graphic. He got bisected, like, and Rudy's got a fucking veiny stump. Have you seen the veins on that stump?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's some nasty stuff. It's like, yeah, this is what happens with like combat and you're swinging around like sharp objects and shit. Like, there's some brutal end scenes in this, which I like.
He was
really
warned he
like.
wouldn't come out of it unscathed. He was warned.
Yep. Well, and also, I don't know how you guys thought about the dad saying the line, and I'm wondering if this was a good translation, but like, this isn't a thing a dad should ask, but like, even if you die, save your mom. I'm like, bro, it's kind of fucked up, but I get what he was saying, like level of energy you need to bring to this, right? Like, but as a dad, you're telling him, yo, son, you got to fucking suicide for this. Yeah, it's pretty extreme. It's pretty extreme. Alpha Omega says his flashbacks to his past life are a great example of what bullying can do to someone as well, due to his broken and a death spiral of self-hatred.
Yeah, exactly. This is a really good case study in what happens when things do get taken to an extreme, and when a person becomes the full neat shut-in. And it's a sad reality, unfortunately, for some.
All the characters have had pretty good transformation. I like this one over here. It's on Sylphie, kind of like a before and after, right? When she's a teenager, when she's a mom, it's like different vibe. Definitely see that. But I'm really liking where the arcs are going for all the characters. Where they have the trajectory. Now the next season. Is that going to be probably 24 episodes, or like how do you think they're going to break out the next production of Jaws?
Probably the same as what they did.
It'll probably be the same. There might be a little bit of a tweak in the episodes, just where the arcs end, because I think the next 6 volumes, it does end in a weird place. So there might be a little bit of tweaking, but it's going to be very controversial. If you think these last 2 seasons were controversial, Season 3 is just going to explode.
would you want to do? Okay, do you want to tease a little bit of that? It's like what do you think's going to be like? Okay, we know full spoiler warning here for guys, but like what's one of the things you think is really going to trigger people from season 3? Just give us one, not just one.
So most people know that he's probably going to get a 3rd edition to the Pokemon series, but that isn't the controversial. That isn't the controversy. It's how do I do it without spoiling? Something's going to happen where he's going to be shown something that could happen. And if the anime shows what he could have done, there are certain things that he would have done if shit got really bad. Let's just say everything went bad. His whole life was destroyed. Everything meaningful was
dark arc,
if he became really dark and depressed, he does some really messed up shit.
Yes.
And I mean actually Oz people, does incest, murders, just goes full off the rail. If they show that in season 3, holy, are people going to lose their shit?
Oh, they will go crazy, right? You could maybe cutscene it. You can maybe do a quick cutscene flashback where it's just like he gets a glimpse of what it would be. It's like, like panel, like one panel, right? That like insinuates it, but I don't think you can go into like real detail, right?
Not in this day and age, no.
Somebody says don't go in the basement. Yeah.
Well, my bud Shum he's in the chat, and he said he was warned by Hitogami he would have regrets if he went. That is a major plot point that is going to drive his relationship with Hitogami going forward. And since I haven't read it and he has, I have
Hitogami is the human, by the way, guys who don't know, Hitogami is the human god, in case you guys don't know. That's the guy who's kind of amorphous, right? So let me just pull that guy up because he's really the major, and if you guys can't tell by now, although I don't think this is a spoiler, right? Like bro is the antagonist, right? Like this is like in case you guys don't know, in case it's not pretty obvious based on his like ominousness, and whenever you have a guy like this or who looks like the homunculus in the flask from Full Metal Alchemist, who's got this sort of like amorphous grin here, this is Hitogami, the human god. Yeah, he's kind of an antagonist. So just FYI. Randy H says we're not gonna get any Mushoku Tensei for a while since Volume 13, a light novel for anyone who can't wait for a year. Random tip: don't go in the basement. Well, I think the timing so far has been about every year, right? I mean, we've had Jobless about every year.
About 1.5 to 2 years.
Year and a half? Okay, year and a half, yeah. So, that's a year and a half, 2 years. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. And I don't mind, once again, waiting a year and a half for this. No problem. I think you're right, though, Espiritu, about Eris not being, the third peg, not being controversial, because once you've got 2, having a third is like, okay, whatever, you've already got 2. Like, it's 3, right? Like the big concept is there 1 or is there 2? If there's 2, there can be 3, right? So,
it's kind of obvious at this point that Eris is kind of like the 3rd edition. And people have spoiled it since the first episode.
Paul flagged it.
Yeah.
Because when they asked him in the anime, they're like, who'd you get married to? And he doesn't know. And the first guess is Eris. Paul's first guess is Eris. So that was the foreshadowing there. That was like, oh yeah, it's Eris, obviously, right? That's his first guess. He didn't think about Sophie. He didn't think about Roxy. He went to Eris. So, yes, Legal Mindset doesn't trust Hitogami because he hates white people. Yes. Yes, this is absolutely true. Absolutely
the man
true.
God lies is the Grey Rat Creed.
Yeah. Rudius answered the Asuka, Rei, or Masato question with yes. Okay, I will read this one because this is like I can say it and it's not the 2 slave girls he ends up owning. It's going to be controversial. Whenever there's slavery in any anime, like oh god, I forget the other one where there's like he buys the slave cat
Shield
girl.
Hero.
Shield Hero.
Yeah.
Whenever there's fucking any element of slavery, even if it's the fact of like the slave like is like very liberated or whatever else, people have a huge problem with it. Despite the fact that in history, for longer than we've had modern history, especially in ancient history, slavery has been a thing, and the concept of slavery through history has been much different. Like in there's an economics book I like, going back to Special, Richest Man in Babylon, right? It's like more personal finance, but it talks about like Babylonian slavery, and like back in ancient Babylon, you could actually, like, slaves could own stuff. Like they could have houses, they could have families. Like it was like a different sort of situation than you had today. In Roman Empire days, I think 25% of the population was slaves, right? So like there's historically, we've had a different relationship with slavery, but I guess because we have a recency bias towards, oh yeah, the last incarnation of this was like absolutely horrible. And to even say this, it automatically triggers the craziest of crazies. It gets people on Twitter going fucking nuts whenever that topic comes out. So yeah,
it doesn't take much.
You're right.
It doesn't take much to get them going. But this is one
wrong.
that really gets them going.
You're not wrong about that. Tinklin said, as Rudy would later say, he has 2 wives and a husband. Eris is... Does he say that?
Yeah, there's a point later on the line novels where he talks about his relationships and he refers to 2 of them as wives and 1 of them as a husband, because Eris is a little bit really
mannish.
heavy.
Yeah.
Like in Soviet Eris land, Eris rapes Rudy.
Yes. No,
when she wants sex, she just goes, "You here now? We're fucking."
Yeah, she. We know who's on top in that one. I'm just saying. Eris is great, and I look forward to how she will be portrayed. Yeah, especially like older version of Eris, right? Where she's aged and matured, and it's going to be interesting. Mr. Insane says, I'm most looking forward to when it covers volume 15. That's going to be awesome. Okay, let me make sure I confirm volume 15. Let me just make sure I've got this one correct. Oh yeah. That's exactly what he was talking about, right? Because that's the one where, without spoiling, there's a little bit of future sight, right, that goes down in that. So yes, absolutely, right. And that is where stories get weird, because honestly, like if you look at Marvel, to use like normie versions, when you get the multiple universe, like time travel / multiple universe, shit gets weird. But I do think that, and not to get too spoiler, but I do think that Mushoku Tensei, from everything I understand, seemed to handle it well, right? It doesn't get absurd with the multiple timelines and stuff jumping around, right? That doesn't get to the point where it's untrackable or unreadable. So that's what I got for that. You guys have any other things for Jobless before we go into other recommendations you guys have?
Binge it.
Yeah, do it. It's great. Don't listen to what the Twitter freaks tell you. It's absolutely amazing. It's a fantastic anime. Don't pay attention to the bullshit. And just understand that these guys are, these guys who are freaking out on Twitter, being weird on Twitter, they're just Twitter weirdos, right? And they
people are getting upset at an anime on Twitter, then it means it's a good anime.
Yeah, that's a really good rule.
that's how I work. If I see controversy on it, I'm like, all right, I'm going to give it a watch.
Yeah,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So guys, do you have any other? Let me start with. Let's start with maybe. I'm gonna start with the spiritual lot. So Brandon, do you want to give some honorable mentions, things you've watched this season or the last couple months that you really want to throw out there?
Absolutely. From the winter season, 2 new shows that I adored. They both, one is getting a second season, the other one isn't because it's technically done. Bong Bravern, that was the gayest super robot I've ever seen in my life, and it was so damn good. It was so funny. Mecha Glory, basically. And 'Tis Time for Torture Princess, which was just goofy and wild, and I'm shocked they're getting a second season, but I'm glad they are because it was funny. From the spring season, Kaiju number 8. That's an easy one. That is
I have not watched that one yet. Is
it's
it good?
So good. Oh, it's so damn good.
Okay, give me a summary. Give me a summary of Kaiju number 8.
Big stumpy monsters taking on the Japanese kaiju self-defense force. Okay. And this guy who happens to work in the cleanup crew, because, after Big Stompy Monster gets defeated, how the hell do you get rid of the Big Stompy Monster? Well, he works on the cleanup crew, and
sure,
he gets
cleanup
injured.
Crew sounds fucking horrible. That cleanup crew.
Oh yeah.
Sounds,
Trust me, they censor. They censor going into places where the poo starts to flow. Well, anyways, he gets injured in the first episode. He's in the hospital, and this flying thing talks to him, gets in his mouth, and he becomes a kaiju. But unlike the other kaiju, he has control over it, or at least it is shown that he exerts control over those abilities. And of course, he's on the run, but he also still wants to join the Defense Force because his longtime friend, she joined the Force. She's like the best. You know, she can unleash almost 100% combat ability, and hardly anybody can do that. He so badly wants to be by her side that he keeps trying. And this first half is him going through, getting on, trying to hide this, and eventually he gets found out, and what happens with him?
Right. Because
You
I
just
mean,
gotta-
like eventually you're gonna
Yeah.
get caught.
Yeah, you're going to get
know,
caught.
like-
Now, here's what I do know. If an anime or if anything is supposed to help sell a manga, this has done it. This particular one, the last that I remember seeing, it had sold like 10, 15 million-ish copies or so throughout its time. It's jumped to around 55
Ooh, is this a
million.
good explanation? Attack on Titan in the Godzilla universe.
See, I've never seen Attack on Titan, so I can't say.
You've never seen Attack on Titan?
I watched the first episode and I said, nope, I'm out. There are certain things I can't do. Zombie shows is one of them. Attack on Titan was the other. I can't do it.
Sort of like Zombie for you.
Yeah, I think so. I think it just doesn't strike right with me. But
Okay.
this has done the job. This has sold crap tons of books, and I'm there for it. It's getting its second season. Other stuff that was really good. This is one. The light novels or the manga is still going, but they finished the anime and they kind of finale'd it to where they really can't do much more. It was called Grandpa and Grandma Turn Young Again. It
What?
was
It's
Grandpa
such a
and
wholesome
Grandma.
series.
It is massively wholesome. Basically, two apple farmers get they're 50 plus years of marriage. They're out doing their thing. There's a tree that produced a golden apple. They eat it, go to bed, wake up, and they're in their late 20s, early 30s body. It was so, hits in the feels. It was so good. I'm glad it got a finale. It was only 11 episodes long, so it's not a slog through. But it was so good.
Is it tied together? It's like it got the ending that it.
It got the ending, yeah.
Yeah.
So if they do another season, great. If they don't, I'm okay. The other
Okay.
one that I want to watch, but I won't watch because it's on the Dick Nuts Corporation channel, is Akira Toriyama's Sandland. And that hurts because I really wanted to see it, but I won't do anything that is on a Disney-owned property. I can't do it.
Oh yeah. No, I'm with you on that one, brother. Like I am 100% with you on that one. So,
But I can play the game, and the game is basically the series, so I'm good.
so I just got to say we've got a strong recommendation just jumping out here from the chat. So I'll kind of before we go to a spirit through here, we've got a sentence of a bookworm coming up big in the chat. People saying a sentence of a bookworm is a wonderful light novel and having its more interesting arcs adapted soon. Magus of the Library is an amazing manga more people need to see, very underrated. And King Konda also said, I'm personally waiting for the next season of A Sentence of a Bookworm. So two people there jumping in for A Sentence of a Bookworm. We also had Magus of the Library as well. But that's pretty big.
It's so good.
I need to watch this.
You do. And the nice part about this one is a fairly easy watch. The dub is serviceable enough to where if you need to watch it while you're trying to do something else, you can. And I have gone through the 3 seasons of it. I am caught up with it, so I am ready for it. And yeah, it's just one of those. Okay, how would it be to be somebody who is a biblioteca person, absolute book nerd, massive book nerd, getting tossed back 500 years earlier, right at the very beginning of these technological advancements, to be able to actually create a book, and all the the political intrigue that goes along with it, class systems, what people can and can't do if you're in a certain class. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Apothecary Diaries is one we've talked about before.
So good.
So I just want to throw that out there that we have brought out. Okay, Spirited, what do you have? What are your big ones now? I know you mentioned Moonlit Fantasy. What is it? Tsukumichi? Moonlit Fantasy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I'm
Um,
pretty much into like all the isekai power fantasies. That's kind of my
I love
junk
it.
food when it comes to anime. Then I also do have Data Live, which is more of the harem romance comedy, and that actually has mecha in it, but it's more focused on the more raunchy, crazy stuff. But to be honest, Data Live getting its 5th season and it becoming less about the fan service and more about like the deep story and sort of the end goal has been really good. I think it kind of throws people a little bit of a headspin, and it's nice to see animes actually get close to their full adaptations of the source material as well, because it doesn't happen that often. So seeing it more often is good, I think.
Okay, so Data Live is a mecha? It's mecha?
It has some mecha aspects in it, but it's not really a pure mecha.
Okay. I didn't know. Like, I usually try to stay tuned. Like, I'm like mecha. You got my attention, right? But it's like it has mecha elements.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, I'll check that out. Actually, I'm really always, even with mecha elements, you can kind of convince me here. Anything else that you're following, or maybe stuff you're interested in that's going to be coming up?
As far as things coming out, I mean, I'm looking forward to the Overlord movie.
Ooh, yes.
It's meant to be
That'll
coming
be
out. That I'm super excited for. I think it's meant to come out this year. My dementia's kicking in when it comes
Is
to
that an
remembering all the
OVA? It's an
anime.
OVA, right?
No, it's meant to be a full-length movie. It's meant to be covering 2 volumes. So I'm a little bit concerned just because 2 volumes in one movie, but it should be a proper like hour or so long plus.
That'd be great. I'm going I'm going to the theaters because that shit will definitely be in the theaters
Same.
in Asia. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely see that. What did you just pull up here, Brandon?
This is one of the shows I'm
Bro.
looking forward to.
Why you gotta hit us with this? I mean, this is triggering for me, right? I'm
The
over
good
here in
part
the
is
land.
it's not going to be censored either, apparently.
That's right. High Dive
Really?
is showing it fully uncensored, and they had a listing of if you liked this and this and this and this, you're gonna love this. Yeah, this is gonna be
man.
so damn funny.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm there for it. You just can't go wrong with elf waifus who love French fries,
Yeah.
and in this
love
case, a
them.
little too much.
Love them a lot. Love them a lot. Funny ass manga. Let's see here. I advocate for reading Bookworm. Well, I mean, it is about books, so I mean that would make sense. Season 2 might do it justice. Season 1 does not. I was not happy. Season 1 is like an isekai one-off, one-shot season. Well, a lot of times the reason why they do that is they don't know if they're going to get a season 2, so they kind of try to make it like a one shot, and then when they get a season 2, they've kind of got to cobble it back together based on that ending. It can get weird. Clifton says chilling with level 2 cheat powers and anime.
Yeah, Clifton is my editor, and he did a review for the channel for that first show, and the second one is an AMV that he created using AI song that he created called Anime Land, and it let's just put it this way. It'll make your nose bleed really, really bad.
That good.
That good. I thought he did a fantastic job with it. So yeah.
Oh, Hypnotic. I've talked about Gankutsu many times, bro. The kind of but that's an older one. That's not being remade, is it? Last time I checked, it is not being remade. I'll Google it right now. But like, I do like Gankutsu. I actually do like this, but it was 2004, brother. Like that is as far as I know, not being remade. If they remade it, it'd be great. But it's 2004. Still good anime. Still good stuff. Anime version of kind of Monte Cristo.
Nice.
Tinklin says, I know this is mostly for anime, but there's more of a light novel person. And Rebuild World is a great sci-fi power fantasy romp. And sci-fi needs more love. Yes.
Yes, it does. It really does.
Yes.
Well, we are
Well,
getting more near automata, so can't go too wrong.
I'm okay with like going into like light novels and discussing them, but I think like when I do a light novel episode, I'll make it specifically about light novels, so we'll like just focus on that and separate that from anime, because the conversation gets confusing when you start trying to jump from one to the other, especially if there's like a really long manga or a really long light novel.
Mm-hmm.
Chaos Smashes. I have my mom watch all of full FMA 2K3.
The original.
The original. And it was nice. I hope to show her Brotherhood, and I might show her Cowboy Bebop first. Hearing Vic's voice is great. I've said this before, I'll say it again. All of those, Full Metal Alchemist, Cowboy Bebop, even a little bit of like maybe Outlaw Star, but like definitely Cowboy Bebop is a great entry for people who do not like anime into anime, right? The English voice acting is great. You can show it to them in English, not in Japanese. That's kind of a bridge for them, right? But like they'll get into it. But they go, I like Cowboy Bebop, right? Or, oh, I like Trigun, or something that's very, very digestible, very easy, very funny, works very well. Overseer's Log says, shows likely not getting any new seasons as far as I'm aware, but recommend Ancient Magus Bride, great for European folklore and mythology, and of course, magic. Yes, very, very popular. Ancient Magus Bride. I think Brandon was recommending that over a year ago.
It did get another season, and I wouldn't be surprised if it did get another one, because they're still, as far as I'm aware, still writing it. So
hold on a second. This is not a real anime. David Mermain, VTuber legend. How I went viral after forgetting to turn on my stream.
This season. It's not on my list, but it's this season.
No, really?
Yeah, it is.
It is an anime about VTubers. Oh my God. This is just, it's crossing over. It's crossing over, guys. We're getting the crossover. It's finally happening. I've said it before, I'll say it again. The second there's a huge anime that like crosses over into an actual VTuber, it's going to make that company millions of dollars, like pretty much instantly. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so here's what I've got for this season.
Okay, now Brandon, please summarize, not go through all of them. I'm not trying to be a dick, but
here's one. This one, first episode is good. Rest of them haven't started. Dungeon People, give it a try. This one I'll give it a try. Quality Assurance, that looks funny. Of course, the plus-sized elf. The Nier Automata, if you've watched the first half, see it. There's your deer one. You got to have the deer one, because it's going to be weird.
Nokotan, yes, of course.
I Parry, everything looks pretty good. Grendizer U, we're getting more mecha. Can't go wrong with that. Mm-hmm. And if you have kids and you want to go adventuring, that's what you do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay.
So those are all the ones from this season. I've really tried to keep it compressed this season, because trying to do 40 of them in a season was
it's a lot.
Much.
That's a lot. Great Fate said we're overdue for another steampunk fantasy with mechs like Escaflowne. Oh yeah, I like.
See, I didn't like Escaflowne.
What?
I did not like it at all.
Did you like Escaflowne? Did you watch it?
I haven't watched it.
Oh, it's a classic. But I
need to watch it.
Well, it's an older one, so I do understand why people might not watch it, because you didn't come out contemporaneously. Like it's you have to go back and go in there and pull it out of the vault, right? Sort of like Legend of the Galactic Heroes. I had to go out and pull that one out of the vault, right? Because that's one that is from an older era. Speaking of crossover, the Suicide Squad isekai, Maureen Callipy wrote and performed the ET. I've only heard good things about this, and I was really worried it was going to be like a woke, crazy nightmare. And also it's like quasi anime, because from what I understand, it's like not fully.
It's Wit Studio that is actually animating it, but it's still a Warner Brothers DC property.
Yeah,
so I chose to skip it.
I've skipped it, but so far I've heard from people I trust that it's good. So I'm going to wait till it's like fully out, and if their review is still good, I'll go back and watch it. But it seems like everybody's said positive things. I haven't heard like really negative things yet. So I'm waiting. Johan the Beard, welcome as a new member. Appreciate you joining up over there. We're going to have a member stream for certain members, BLM members, pretty soon, but we have one for all members very routinely. Fellows who says Jellyfish Can't Swim in the Night is also about VTubers. Really? And then Oyamada says there's also a manga called My Dad's the Queen of All VTubers. Wait, what? Still waiting. You know what?
You know it's going to happen eventually.
Oh, God. Oh, it's so true, though. It's so true. A Japanese demon lord, Abari Lucifer, says farming life in another world is #1 of 2023.
It was good, wholesome, and
farming life in another world.
Yeah. Basically, dude dies like at age.
Is it an anime or a?
Yeah, it's an anime.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, dude dies of something. The god of this world says, "Hey, your life sucked. I'm sorry. Here's another life in this other world. You get to have one thing." So he goes into this fantasy world with the almighty farming tool, which turns out to be more than that, and it makes it to where he can do farming without getting tired. Because while he was in the hospital, that's the type of shows he'd watch. He'd watch TV shows about farming.
Cool. So
and of course, tons of waifus.
Him and his tool.
Waifus.
Him and his
Yes.
pool and his waifus.
Yes.
All right. Felzu says, highly recommend Girls Band Cry. Okay, I have not heard of that one. And did you get a chance to watch? I am deeply sorry for my sin of not watching Gundam Seed Freedom. I did not get a chance. I'm so sorry. I have no excuse. I must commit seppuku. Right. I did not get a chance to get to the theaters and see Gundam Seed Freedom. Literally, it slips my mind. I go to the theaters very rarely, but I meant to do it, and it completely bypassed me. So yes, I screwed up on that one. That's on me. That's on me. But I'll download it and watch it for sure. For sure. That said, guys, make sure you are subscribed. Once again, a nice plug. Make sure you like this video if you like me doing anime content. You like me doing these weekly, these kind of bi-monthly. I try to do anime bi-monthly, not every month because, anime is kind of on a slower timeline. Make sure you go over to here to Espiritu. Thank him for joining us. Go leave some comments on his videos. Like his videos. His great coverage of stuff like Mushoku Tensei. He's covering Farming Life in Another World right there. You've got High School D&D, Moonlit Fantasy. Go over there, leave some likes on his videos, his latest videos, and subscribe to his channel. He's at 12.3. Let's get him to at least 13. We can do that, guys. We can do that, right? And then, of course, we got Brandon, the anime guy, my good friend of the channel, who's over here. I think you're cruising at, Brandon, your personal channel's got like 1.78. We can get you to 2K, right? We can get Brandon to 2K. So come over here, subscribe to Brandon. Both of these guys are in the description. And I'll give some final thoughts on the guys with you guys, and we'll close out here. So Brandon, any kind of final thoughts before we part?
Just watch some anime and enjoy what you enjoy. I try to cover as many things as possible, and of course that's hard. And I do have my biases. I openly admit I'm an isekai slut and a fantasy slut. I'm trying to expand out into the mecha, and I've been happy and I've been burned. But at the end of the day, just got to enjoy what you want, and the rest of the world can just be turned off for a while you're doing it. Remember that. That's the most important thing that I can tell anybody is just enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Spiritu, any final thoughts?
I think as anime fans, I think we're eating extremely well for these future seasons, especially at the end of this year, because we've got some big heavy hitters coming out, ReZero being one.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great time to be an anime fan. Pick what you want, find what you want. There's plenty of variety out there. And don't let Twitter tell you what you can and can't enjoy.
Mm-hmm. And a final comment from my locals, because they're being degens over here, which is, I've seen enough hentai to know where this is going. God.
Oh, shit.
And on that note, let me leave you guys with a little bit of the good stuff here, guys. So absolutely, guys, stay based. I'll catch you later. And